I wrote Having It All in 2020, just as the world was being tucked in for a long, torpid nap. At the time, I hadn't set eyes on the harmonic series, nor had I come in contact with the concept of the having me's. My title here, or so I thought, was describing the non-inflationary nature of cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin protocol that limits its supply by periodically reducing its mining rate by half. I can see now that this halving concept was already in my mind, subconsciously at least. But the only thing on my conscious brain was economic theory. This is a whiteboard from my days of homeschooling my two boys. I've always had a passion for teaching kids basic economic theory and the history of how these theories came about. Anyway, a friend of mine, Stefania Vaughn, had asked me to write a sequel to Cost Benefit Jr. That book is an economics textbook for young kids I wrote years ago. But Stefania wanted a book that she could use to teach econ to older kids and teenagers. And so, at first, I sat down to put together another textbook. But honestly, there are enough textbooks in the world, and my brain just didn't want to go there. But what the world didn't have enough of were books by Douglas Adams. He's been gone since 2001, so I decided to step in and write one myself. Douglas Adams had great insights into basic economic truths, and he wove them right into his work.
If we could, for a moment, move on to the subject of fiscal policy.
Fiscal policy? How can you have money if none of you actually produces anything? Doesn't grow on trees, you know.
But since we decided a few weeks ago to adopt the leaf as legal tender, we have all, of course, become immensely rich.
I was thinking that if I really wanted kids between the ages of 12 and 19 to read a book about something as dry and boring as economic theory, using the voice of Douglas Adams would be a good way to soften the blow. But was such a thing even possible? Mimicry of the written word is hard. That's why all the great writers have advised any would-be novelist to just be yourself and find your own voice. I wasn't sure I'd succeed, but I had to try, if only for the fun of it. And I think I did succeed. Comparisons to Douglas Adams have happened a lot. Kirkus Reviews was the first to make that comparison, saying Peterson's comic world, rendered in precise prose, brings to mind the work of Douglas Adams. But this review by R.J.G. McManus on Goodreads really let me know I'd hit the mark. She writes, "Imagine your basic economics 101 book, but it's written by Douglas Adams, a la Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The result would be Having It All." The story follows three girls who get stranded on a tiny moon far from home during COVID. They befriend a prison matron who happens to carry around an economics textbook wherever she goes, the title of which is Manual of Basic Economics for the Stupid and Ill-Informed. A sort of guide to the monetary universe that doesn't bother to calm your nerves. Instead, it presupposes your ignorance of economic matters and assumes you'll want to solve the problem as therein defined. A few other reviews of the book have been really encouraging. S. Lynn Helton wrote, "This book is just plain fun. As a former homeschooling parent, this is a resource I definitely would have wanted to include in my curriculum." M. A. Leon says, It's an extremely well-written book. She throws some super unique, creative ideas into her work. SD gave the book a solid 5 stars, writing, "This was a truly enjoyable read and the humor is off the charts." Kelly Chanick's review says, "I wasn't expecting to laugh as much as I did over this book, reminiscent of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy." And, full disclosure, my good friend Colleen said the book literally made me laugh out loud. Having It All is a pretty short little science fiction novella, only 134 pages. I hope you'll give it a read if you've got a free weekend and an empty spot on your nightstand. Let me know if you think I've done a fair job of channeling Douglas Adams. In the meantime, I'll leave you with this little snippet from Chapter 2.
The smattering of Sylvidian eyes began to blink in a more relaxed rhythm, but Brimpini, another reluctant council member, sighed derisively in the direction of the Earth people. This meeting, an activity he despised, had been called because, in an almost predictable manner, the Earth humans had created a huge mess of things on a Sylvidian moon. Brimp blamed these kerfuffles on the flawed nature of human brains. After all, the tricameral Sylvidian brain was housed entirely in the head. Earthlings housed only the left and right hemispheres there, relegating the third, intuitive, brain to the bowels. "I keep all my gray matter up here," Brimp was fond of telling them, while pointing at his temple. "Free from the poo." The humans didn't much like the Sylvidians, either, but their reasons had more to do with Sylvid's lack of theme parks. The frugal people of Sylvid frowned on such frivolous ways to spend money and had invested their excess wealth in economic education camps. Rod was getting tired of the whole problem. "What do you Earthlings have to say for yourselves, anyway?" "Well, Mr. Ung," began the other Earthling, Brian. He took a breath and scanned the crevices of his intestinal brain for just the right word. "I guess it was frustration. We've gone along with this idea of, hey, let's try socialism out, see for ourselves, but it's been going on for almost 200 years now and none of them ever seem to notice the poor results." "Frustration, for sure," added Mark, "but it won't happen again." Rod wasn't convinced this problem would just go away and wondered if his brother, Rid, might pull up the lawyers on screen. No, Vaughn said, sitting back in his chair. "We'll just do what we did last time." The statement caused the eyebrows of both Mark and Brian to lift. "Last time?" A third, quieter Earthling deigned to look up from her phone. Vaughn shrugged. "You don't think you're the first frustrated Earth capitalist to send some socialist to re-education camp, do you?" Nervous laughter erupted and the female Earthling returned to her phone. Brimp admitted the whole arrest scenario was actually fairly common and assured his colleagues that the 3 girls would wake up in their beds tomorrow with one hell of a hangover and a few faint memories of having their DNA sampled during a Zillion abduction event. Blaming everything on the Excel seemed a fitting solution everyone could live with, and Rid texted the attorneys to stand down.